great kids, you are so welcome and we're so glad you're here. We're so excited for this morning. We have Kathy coming to tell us a great Bible story and we cannot wait to hear it all about David and Goliath this morning.
Darkness run and hide, you bring the broken back to life. Only you can, only you can. You set me free from every chain, you fill my heart with songs of praise. Only you can, only you can. Jesus, you're the only reason that I'm even breathing. I am wide awake. My heart beats only for your glory. My hands reach up for you to hold me. My soul sings, Father, you are holy. My feet dance to your rhythm, to your rhythm. Every beat is calling out your name. You left the glory of your throne to bring this runaway back home. Only you can, only you can. You give me love, you give me life, you keep me dancing through the night. Only you can, only you can. My heart beats only for your glory. My hands reach up for you to hold me. My soul sings, Father, you are holy. My feet dance to your rhythm, to your rhythm. Every beat is calling out your name. Every beat is calling out your name. Jesus, you're the only reason that I'm even breathing. I am wide awake. You're moving, your freedom is consuming. I feel you rushing through me. I'll never be the same. My heart beats only for your glory. My hands reach up for you to hold me. My soul sings, Father, you are holy. My feet dance to your rhythm, to your rhythm. Every beat is calling out your name. Ooh, every beat is calling out your name. Every beat is calling out your name.
Jesus, you have been so faithful. Jesus, you have been so true. I will be forever thankful, 'cause I never had a friend like you. Help me to be who you've been to me, to everyone I see. Let us love one another with a love like no other yet. That's the way you love us, God. Never turn away, you are with us every day, yeah. That's the way you love us, God. Your love has always been beginning to end. There's never been a better friend. So let us love one another with our love like no other, yeah. That's the way you love us, God. You with me in the darkest valley. You with me on the mountaintop. I'm thankful that you never leave me, and that your love will never stop. Help me to be who you've been to me, to everyone I see. Let us love one another with a love like no other, yeah. That's the way you love us, God. Never turn away, you are with us every day, yeah. That's the way you love us, God. Your love has always been beginning to end. There's never been a better friend. So let us love one another with our love like no thank you for being a friend who's always by my side. I wanna thank you for the way you love me all my life. I wanna thank you for being a friend who's always by my side. I wanna thank you for the way you love me all my life. Love one another with a love like no other, yeah. That's the way you love us, God. Never turn away, you are with us every day, yeah. That's the way you love us, God. Your love has always been beginning to end. There's never been a better friend. So let us love one another with our love like no other, yeah. That's the way you love us, God.
Hi kids, I'm going to tell you our memory verse this morning. So we have some actions, so everybody stand to your feet, okay? Our memory verse this morning is found in Philippians 4 verses 13. And it says, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Can we do that again? Yeah, I think we can. The Bible says in Philippians 4 verses 13, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Great job, guys.
Hi kids! Well, we've another story for you this morning, and this one is about a king. And this king was called King Saul. Now, King Saul hadn't been listening to God, and he hadn't been doing what God wanted him to do, and so he was making God very sad. And King Saul wasn't feeling very happy himself, because one night he'd had a really bad dream. I don't know about you, but I've had bad dreams before, and they're not very nice. So he'd had this bad dream, and he spoke to a prophet named Samuel, and he said, Samuel, I am feeling so sad today. I had a bad dream. Could you do me something? Do you know someone who can play music and make me feel better? And Samuel says, actually, I do. I know someone called David, and David can play the harp. I've heard a harp before, and it is such beautiful music. It comes from a harp. And so David could play music, and he used to write music too. It's amazing. Well, David was in the fields looking after the sheep because he was a shepherd boy. And so Samuel went and he got David, and David came to the palace and he played music for the king. And it made the king happy. Now, sometime later, David was going to the fields to look after the sheep, and he was asked if he would go and take some food to his brothers. Now, his brothers were in the army, and they were fighting against this other army called the Philistines, and they were coming to take over from King Saul. Now, King Saul didn't know what to do because the Philistine army was big, and not just big, they had giants. Yes, guys, they had giants. Now, we can't imagine how big a giant would be. Now, these giants were supposedly 10 foot tall. Now, that is tall, isn't it? You can't even imagine that. No way could anybody be that tall. But it is true. And I know for a fact that there has been fossils, skeletons found in Egypt and in other places around the world of big, big, big bones. And so it is true, guys. The Bible is true. There used to be giants. Now, these giants were not very nice giants. They were big, bad giants. And one of them was called, you might already know this story, guys, but you might not. And his name was Goliath. And he was the biggest and the baddest of all of the Philistines. And you know, he had a big mouth as well. Do you know that, guys? Because he was saying, oh, come on, if you think you're big enough, come and fight me. And no one wanted to fight Goliath. Do you know, in fact, they were quaking in their boots, guys. They were scared to death. And I think I probably might be a bit scared of a 10-foot giant with a big sword and a shield. Honestly, guys, I really wouldn't know what to do. But one day, David had been asked if he would go to the field, to the place where the Israelite army was, and would he go down with food for his brothers? And so he did. And he heard Goliath and his big mouth giving off and saying, oh, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. Come on and fight me if you think you're hard enough. You might have heard that before. And that's what he was saying. And David was so cross. How dare he? How dare he speak like that? And so David said, well, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Why is nobody sorting this big, stupid Goliath out? Well, guys, nobody wanted to do it. And so David went to King Saul and said to King Saul, I want to go and I want to sort out this cheeky giant who says he's going to kill us and take over your kingdom. And so King Saul said, well, David, you know, I really like you and you can play the harp really, really well. But I don't think you'd be able to fight this Philistine because he's really, really big. I really don't know what to do. David was not happy. And he said, please, King, let me go and fight this giant. In the end, King Saul said, okay, if you want to go, I will let you go. And so David went back to the battlefield and he said that he would fight the giant. Now, guys, everybody thought that this was nuts. But they said, okay, David, come on. And they dressed him in armor. They gave him a shield, they gave him a spear, they put on a big helmet. But David could hardly walk. He couldn't move because it was so heavy. David wasn't used to all this armor and the helmet and everything. And David said, no. And he took it off. He said, no, I don't need that. Do you know what David did? He says, I'm going to fight Goliath. And I'm going to take the one thing that I know works and that I've used before. You see, David was a shepherd boy, and he had fought lions and bears, and he had wrestled them and fought them off as he looked after the sheep. Guys, do you know what David wanted to fight Goliath with? You're not going to believe this. Something like this. Now, this is just a piece of string. David's was probably a little bit bigger, maybe a little bit longer and a bit thicker. And it was a sling. And what they did with these is they used to take stones, a bit like this, and they used to put them inside the sling, and they used to spin them around their heads like this, and they used to let go, and the stone used to go and hit whatever it was they wanted to hit. Now, guys, David went down to the river, and he picked up 3 smooth stones, and this is what he did. He took the first stone and he twisted it in the sling, and around his head it went. And the very first stone hit Goliath, smack bang in the middle of his head, and he fell. He fell to the ground, and that was him, done. And they had won. And David had won the battle for the Israelites. You know, sometimes people think that when you're small, you can't do anything great. But there was David with 1 stone and a sling. He defeated Goliath, a huge, huge giant. God was with him, and that's how David did that. He didn't do it in his own strength, but he did it because God was with him. And he wanted to honor God, and he wanted to honor the Israelites as well and keep them safe. And so, guys, God will honor you if you honor him. And I just want to leave that story with you today, guys. Bye.